I'm Bree Griffin. I work across community facilitation, design, and program creation at Rhizome, which is a nonprofit organization that has sought to preserve and support the creative use of technology since 1996. As a pathway towards broader celebrations of Rhizome's 30th anniversary this year, we've been co-hosting this third season of Artwrld with Josh, which has been really fun and exciting, highlighting various figures that have shaped Rhizome's community over our 30 years. So in a world that often attempts to present us with a clean and perfect vision of technology, it's hard not to cherish the special moments of imperfection, malfunction, and glitch that imprint these qualities in our memories. How often have we seen the effects of like mimicking degraded VHS tapes applied to modern trends like Visco Girl on Tumblr, or the accidentally overexposed like point and shoot applied to the aesthetics of the drainer? Our guest today, Rosa Menkman, throughout her career has constantly created, experimented, researched, and curated along the many endless unstable languages of our technological world. Fingerprints of imperfection. I saw Rosa describe this as in an interview from 2011. From video compression and feedback to noise and deconstruction culture, Rosa Menkman has wrote also the glitch often breaks the expectation of the user, the viewer, or maker, and as such infuses a specific momentum with a different or new meaning. I have a feeling that we will experience a piece of this momentum today together. And on that note, I'll hand things off to Rosa. I'm super excited to see what you'll be doing today.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you so much for your introduction. Um, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. There, sound on. Da, 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 da. Okay. 2026. Let's see if I got professional at Zoom. How's it going? Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, Josh and Bree. Thank you, Rhizome and Artworld, and also, of course, Francesca, Michael, Kayla, for having me. It's an honor. It's also super nice to see so many people in the audience on a Friday. Here it's like 8 p.m., so the sun is going down now, but it was a beautiful day. Um, I'm going to present a short story, and it's going to be about 20 minutes. However, around mid-time, there will be some stroboscopic flashing. I just want to make sure that if you're sensitive to that, it will come right after a lot of colors. You'll know when you see it. It's like a weird, yeah, you'll know. But so please take care if you have to. Thank you. Her eyes are staring, her mouth is open, her wings are spread. This is how one pictures the angel of history. Her face is turned towards the past, where she perceives a chain of events, obsolete piles growing skywards. It has caught her wings with violence, pushing her along the debris of a century of upgrades. This is the storm we call progress. While our body is blown towards the future, all she can see is the past. She would like to pause and recover what has been crashed, but her signal is daisy-chained through a burned-out dongle, slipping in and out of compatibility. Her face is fragmented, forked, and recombined. She's become a poor image. Artifacts mark her wings as generation loss washes over her. She persists as a shadow, a myth, bound by algorithms of a specific time and place. Lately, I've been feeling trapped inside this flow of time. Who has time or who gets time no longer mean the same. I can no longer take time. Time is just scheduling everything around me. And while they say what we have is the past to train on, I feel that what is at stake is my present. I see in the past collapse. Maybe I should slip out of sync and maybe live in another timeline just for a little bit. A general consensus about Cyclops' vision is that because they see the world through just one eye, they must see the world flat. However, recently I learned about a certain types of Cyclop that actually traded an eye in exchange for a sense of future vision. This doesn't concern the traditional monstrous creature that we know as a Cyclops, but in fact, it's the god Bodan, who has traded an eye for knowledge of his future demise. So fascinated by this lore of future vision, a sense that seems laterally opposed to my perspective of collapse, I find myself entering a cave named after that god in the hope of learning about his sense of future collapse. As I follow my shadow into the darkness of the cave, it pokes a hole in the light. At a burn of many broken vectors, the cavern seems to bend to the left, trapping the last of light. Suddenly, I feel like the darkness is washing over me. In this cave, there seems to be no day or night, no backwards or forwards or axis of rotation. It's just darkness as my sense begins to slip. What is time? What is time here anyway? The current time is no longer hi-fi, rhythmic, or real. Instead, frames seem to skip, cue, and toggle, and their budgeted cycles scale beyond repetition. As engineered timelines assign slots, they seem to administer pace in increments of attention. Now, algorithms survey my timeline. They create versioned landscapes. I live in an endlessly scrolling present, a progress bar that ends in iterations. Around me, resolution seems exhausted, forked into a pool of mutations. Countless unsynced frames produce blind spots and distortions, while interpolation smooths them over. I flicker my eyelids open and close, but the cave is now pitch black. However, I seem to slowly perceive something more. I'm not sure what I'm actually seeing. Could it be the shadows of the floaters in the fluids of my eyes? Or has the absence of light activated the peripheral off cells in my retina, producing their own particular type of gray? This gray, which I can only see when I close my eyes, it exists in contrast to the actual darkness of the cave. It feels like a background noise produced by my brain. But then, slowly, my eyes also seem to become sensitive to the darkness and of the little lightness that remains in the cave. It's hard to believe what I see. Seems like I'm in a crystal cavern in the dark. These crystals that usually refract light in this darkness. In the darkness, they don't seem to refract light at all. They will never sparkle in the ways that set them apart from the other rocks. It's like a cavern of latent properties. I'm confronted with possibilities I was never aware of. It makes me think that maybe this is also a reason to explain why we've never given color names to invisible bands of light of the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. I mean, there is, of course, ultraviolet and there is infrared, but those are not really imaginative color names. And beyond those bands, X-ray is not a color name. Radio is also not the name of a color. So could rainbows actually exist beyond their infrared and ultraviolet bands? I remember that in 2014, the European Space Agency observed a special rainbow on Venus. Because the atmosphere on Venus contains droplets rich in sulfuric acid, different frequencies of sunlight are filtered, causing other refractions to occur, drawing alternative rainbows in the air. Perhaps the spectrum that I see with my eyes is also a type of myopia. What if I could change the benchmarks of my vision if the things around me just depended on another resolution? A feeling of confusion washes over me. It's like cosmic vertigo. Maybe my blindness is not one of the results of an absence of light. Maybe I just need to think about a different type of eye. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to speak to several particle physicists and ask them about impossible images. And one of those scientists, he spoke to me and said, maybe I could mount an antenna in my eye socket so I could see through the walls and into the electromagnetic spectrum. If I had such an eye, could I scan the cave like a satellite mapping the Earth? Could I collect the echoes and render an image of my surroundings with that antenna eye? I take a pointed shard of rubble from the cave and stick it in my eye socket like an antenna, and I start scanning the environment around me. But all I seem to resolve are the memories of resolution. Progress, once symbolized by a hologram Penrose stairs to nowhere, is now a ruin, a monumental kern of nonsensical vectors. Either the data I collected is flawed, or I just don't have the right protocol to decode. At a loss, I approach the glitch cautiously, tracing its dynamic edges, composed of thick layers of poor resolution sediment. And on one of its shredded sides, it seems to open into a viewport, offering a glimpse into a repository of render objects. This synthetic data appears to follow machine to machine standards that produce nothing but a haze of noise. It's it's frightening me. If my tools cannot render this data, I will I will need another way to debug this glitch. In a last effort, I scan the frequencies I usually keep on mute. And then, to my surprise, deep within a C band frequency, I detect a faint echo. It's a Cyclops corner reflector, part of a decentralized system that recalibrates data misaligned across time and space. And when I bounce my dataset through the reflector, its phase difference is corrected, and my vision begins to render. This tells me that the glitch wasn't caused by an error in my data. It was the result of an incompatibility between my way of seeing and the synthetically sensed environment of the future. While I still work with formats that prioritize clarity and fidelity, the future seems to have shifted towards resolutions that are optimized for machines, by machines. They only favor dynamic abstraction, efficiency, and automation. Progress, once a form that propelled me backwards into the future, has left me into a double blind. On the one side, I see collapse, and on the other, a future in which sensing depends on a distributed system of resolution. If a myth is an algorithm that functions as a tool respective to a time and place, then maybe recursively, an algorithm can also be a myth, written and transformed via iterative updates and procedural contexts.
I love the
Sorry, I
reaction.
was gonna, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. There we are. Woo! I'm all red.
Uh,
Um,
Rose, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and indicate whether you want me or Bree to read for you, or if you'd like to go on camera and read yourself. There was one question that kind of came up a little bit earlier that I said I could read for B. Bogart. What are your thoughts on your aesthetic style, considering the weight of the pixel and the polygon in your work in an age of increasing smooth Gaussian AI seamless realist digital aesthetics?
that's a it's a great question. It's not a simple question to answer though. Um, what I'm starting to see with glitches, I think these days is that they become kind of maybe proof of authenticity, um, because we can still recognize when a glitch is a trace evidence of a particular event within of an image processing tool, or for instance, of the processing pipeline. And we have a lot of AI that wants to kind of, you know, make glitches, but these glitches don't really like follow the actual pipeline traces. It's still very hard. And so I think what is happening to the glitch, to the pixel, is that it changes into really not just an indexicality of meaning, but also a trace event, trace evidence event. I hope that answered your question a little bit. Like we could talk about Gaussian blur and all the stuff and splatters, but maybe yeah, maybe we can move to the other questions also. Is the plan that you're moderating it, or am I
Oh,
just going to read the
I can
questions?
moderate if you see things in the if you see things in the chat that you want to answer as well. That's also completely fair. Um,
I had a quick question, or it's like a two-parter. What first attracted you to the glitch, and what is your strongest or earliest childhood glitch-related memory?
Um, so I tell this story very often, but I think it's worth always bringing up. My first glitch that I encountered was in Montevideo. Montevideo was the museum for video or media art here in Amsterdam. They later became NIMCA, also no longer there. I used to live very close, so I would just, walk in, enjoy the hallways and the art. And I was an avid video gamer. I would play a lot of Quake, early Quake, Quake 1. We would set up a LAN network here, not so far away, with my friend. So just a cable between our computers, basically, and then scream at each other while we would shoot at each other. So it was our favorite game. Um, and when I walked through this exhibition space, I heard my favorite game, but it was broken. And so later on, I realized, okay, this is a Jody work. It's untitled game. I had to write a whole master thesis about it to kind of understand it. And once I had finished that master thesis, then understood it was glitch, but I still didn't understand what was really a glitch. So then I had to go study it more. So that was kind of my first real encounter with glitch, as in it introducing itself to me and making me question stuff. Jody.org, right? I think uh, childhood memory of a glitch is a very hard question. But I think maybe it's not childhood because it's so hard to say. Maybe it's just like the Atari games that you had to blow, right? That is like a little bit silly,
Yes.
but that's what I can think of. Like we had a Atari 2000, 2600, that's what you say. Yeah, and then it was just like the sprites would get a bit messy, but it's not as exciting as like really conceptual thinking about glitch.
Fantastic.
Does
Thank
that
you for that. Yeah. I have fond memories of blowing cartridges as a child too.
Fantastic. Tessa, would you like to ask your question?
I think I asked this in a super confusing way, so I'm really sorry. I'll just read it out loud. It's just because when you were talking about the crystals refracting light, etc., I was wondering how you made the link between digital obsolescence, digital glitch, and the larger history of like obsolete light-based media, and like if a glitch can be analog in this sense. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's like there's a very big group of people still that wants to juxtapose digital to analogs for some reason. Um, you can enter that conversation from 2 points. One would be the post-digital way, like everything has now a bit of digital inside of it. I'd rather say I think. Actually, maybe Andrew said that. My friend Andrew is also here. He said, I like to think about it as there's just degrees of digitality. Like even analog uh, uh, a haptic, has little pieces, right? And so sometimes there's zeros and ones there, and so there's a degree of digitality. You can think about degrees of digitality, and so you don't have to completely juxtapose that. Does that answer your question, Tessa?
Yeah, I think it was more about like juxtaposing the concept of the yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think I'm the um confused one here. I'm sorry. No, but it was super clear. Um
Thank you for your question.
yeah. No, thank you for your answer.
We had another question in the chat from Les. Is there a nostalgia for compression artifacts in the age of the polished AI ML image? Is there a misplaced nostalgia for more familiar images?
I think nostalgia is all around us for sure. Uh, can you explain to me what is an AIML? Is it just a machine learning?
Yeah.
AIML machine learning image. Okay, sorry, I too many acronyms these days. So in I don't know if I want to talk too much about AI. Um, it's so easy to say something is nostalgic and that is bad, but at the same time, um, I also think that there's something really interesting happening in how glitches become completely indexical today. It has nothing to do with like real slippery signals. And so in that sense, um, I think we're just moving towards a place where now you can watch well, in maybe a month or so you can say, hey, Netflix, I wanna watch this video like it's a VHS style, and then I want to watch the second part of the video in digital glitch style. Or and I think that will change the meaning of the actual video that you'll be watching. And so maybe there's something exciting there. It's 100% become a shared language, right? The glitch. So now people will exploit that much more in their uh maybe in their platforms even.
Rosa, I'm actually, we have some amazing questions. I'm going to jump in anyway and ask my own. Uh, no, one of the things I thought was really interesting is this idea of like realism. And, I think that some of that comes out with like AI and ML. Like everyone's like, oh, Nana Banana is so realistic. The new, like all these like new image models are so realistic. But in some ways, like the glitch is what actually sort of shows the artifice. And in some ways is actually showing that it's like, it is showing in some ways it's almost more realistic because it's revealing that this is constructed. And also, like I was thinking about this thing that you were saying about not being there's certain spectrums you can't see. And thinking about like, okay, well, right now AI and all this is disembodied, but if it becomes embodied, if it can see or if it sees in any way, it's not going to necessarily be seeing in the same way that's based on our human limitations. Like, it will be able to see all spectrums. It will be able to read us in ways that we don't read ourselves. I don't even know if that's a question, but something that like just kind of was spinning up as I was listening.
Yeah, but I mean, our all our relationships to reality are being reconstructed, and I think that's on a very fundamental level, uh, also very violently, because I think partially this is done as a byproduct, but I think partially it's being deployed on us, and you
Mm.
see that from the U.S. point of, I mean, not like political videos becoming AI. That's like fake reality making space for reality, starting to program our expectations before people can do the violence that they've portrayed in their videos, right? So in that sense, um, maybe there's even a turn where AI is showing us things that we couldn't imagine, and then they are becoming reality. And so it's like this like very scary preparation for violent behavior. And what I'm trying to say is that's really changing our relation to reality from another angle. Can you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
They're
absolutely.
programming our expectations or our limits of uh what we think is real and can be put into reality.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting that idea of the deep fake. It like presents itself. It's purely digital, but it presents itself as realistic. Whereas like when it was more fake, when it was less intelligible, it actually at least was honest about being fake.
But I would say even to go then, because what I tried to say was something more heavy. What you see is videos by Trump, where he uses AI to visualize things that you think he could never do that in reality. But he's just preparing people. He's just slipping up our expectations. And then he does that. So it's often just an announcement of what is going to be reality later. And that is like, you also see the same with prediction markets, polling markets, etc. Reality now is first constructed in the virtual and then becomes actualized. And they do that by means of the shock. The shock comes before the reality. And so we're already shocked. We've already lived through the shock from the artificiality to then it is suddenly also real. And that to me is like, that's what I mean when I say like they're flipping reality in some type of way. They're using virtual reality to make reality or
Okay.
AI, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Bree, you've been manning the chat. Who
Sammy, did you want to unmute and ask your question? Let's see. Alternatively,
Sammy, can you?
not
Oh,
sure.
oh, it actually looks like she's going for it.
Or, oh, I see.
Okay. Next one.
Or Amelia had a question in the chat too. No, okay. I can
Sorry, I can ask my question. I just had to step into the other room. My question was, do you think that the increasing popularity of low resolution and glitch aesthetics online, particularly within like SoundCloud rappers and like musicians or even influencers, changes your relationship to using this language within your artistic practice?
I love Alexandra's answer. Oh my God, that's such a so heartwarming to read that. We're literally responding to this question in 2014. It's like what I was thinking about also. Um, yeah, because it's not the first turn that we've gone through, right? Glitch was completely part of popular culture around the 2013s, actually, I think it was. No, 12 even. Welcome to Heartbreak would be 2012, if I remember correctly. Um, so a little bit earlier, what you got was it was a kind of like a battle of being cool, and cool then means to do something that people don't understand yet. So there's no real way to describe that. You had people doing data moshing, and Kanye West saw that. Kanye West wants to co-opt everything that is not describable yet, or so he thinks. And from that, you had immediately people dropping tutorials. Bob Weiss, for instance, made a tutorial on how to data mosh at that time. And what you saw was Kanye West singing while data moshing his face and his sad moving body. To sing about his heartbreak. So he put that indexicality already, that meaningful, the mush of heartbrokenness. He already put that language in there. So we had that conversation back then. Then we had vaporwave, of course. Then we had the Nazis, real quick. So Fashwave co-opting glitches to put their Nazi fascist signaling uh, under a cool aesthetic. And that is just 10 years ago. And now that is that, what we saw on obscure blogs, that word blogs then still. Now we see it on all the new platforms. And it's like completely like not just main culture, it's the way populists express themselves. So it's just like the wheel has just geared up. That's all. It's not new. It's just a higher level of um, nostalgia becoming cool, becoming fascist. It's just every time and time again.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Shalal had a question she wanted me to read for her. Them, I'm not sure. How do you recognize the moment when glitch stops being an aesthetic effect and becomes a conceptual language?
I think it can be both. They don't need to be like either or, right? Uh, I hope that's not too simple of an answer, Shalala. If you wanna like have a more specific answer, then I static affect and become a conceptual language. I think poetics, using poetics, um, not just as poetry, but to push the limits of theory sometimes, which is a difficult situation. I don't know if I know that then it becomes conceptual, but to me, that's like there's a dynamic there where it helps you create concepts that otherwise don't easily find a form. I hope that that helps. Thank you, Shalala.
All right. Florian had a question. They also wanted me to read. Okay, this is a long one, but buckle up. How how would you place the notion of glitch into the longer history of theory, philosophy, and practice? Even prior to coining the term in the 1960s, in this 1960 space race, in fact, how about how about the symptom slip in psychoanalysis, contradicted in Marxism, maybe even the Klineman swerve that early ancient animists like Lucretius conceptualized? Is history important to your work?
Not all of that is important to my work. I would say I'm not only familiar with some of it, but how about how would you place the notion of glitch in a longer history? Well, I mean, at the beginning, when we were trying to develop a language or an understanding, or maybe even just a practice, a community that was the glitch art community, we had to be very uh, I don't know a better word. I'm going to say anal. I'm sorry. We had to be anal about it. So we had to be very specific about what is a glitch and what is not a glitch, right? Because you have to establish some ground rules, even if you want to play. And glitch was about play. But you had a lot of dialogues about what is glitch and what is not glitch, what is a glitch like, and that was almost sometimes feeling like a little fight between people, like how far can you push it? Is it okay to push it? Now that glitch is no longer just a community, just a glitch art space, but it's become its own populist language. In the future, we might as well also push it back towards the past. I'm completely open to that. I think that's also maybe I'm just wary of that certain language from another time. If you apply it to a time that was before that, you bring a kind of sentiment and meaning that is asynchronous, extemporaire, out of time. And so you have to be aware of what you're doing, maybe in that sense. But I'm very excited to search for a Kleeneman later and see what I come up with for you.
All right, Rosa.
Kleeneman.
I'm gonna take us a step out of the philosophical for a moment and ask like something incredibly basic. Can you talk a little bit about your process? Like, what are the tools that you use? Like, how do you, like what is your do you work as a solo artist? Do you have a team? How do you collaborate? I'm just very curious about like how the work gets done.
Wow. Well, I do a lot of it myself. Like I as you could have as you might have noticed, a lot of it was very basic technology, right? Like it's not like high tech glitch that makes that keeps the space for me to feel in control somehow. And also I will say that like if you're going to do very complicated stuff, it's harder to be very specific about your choices because there's too many choices. So, to all of that to say is that I work on on quite with quite simple technologies sometimes. For instance, a lot of the 3D stuff was done on New Art City. New Art City is a great great toolkit for 3D work within the browser. If you haven't worked with it, I would completely recommend it. Um, so that's one part. That's the technological part. I also do the research, right? Because I'm a writer, a theorist. And I also, the research on the Cyclops didn't come from nowhere. Um, it is also very much based in my own being, like who I am, what speaks to me, my memories, things that bother me and that I'm working through in my life. So the Cyclops research specifically came out of being stuck in Corona time and visiting an old island that I hadn't been to since I was 18. And coming there, a Greek island that has actual Cyclops archeolo archaeologic sites, like seeing that with new eyes of someone that is 20 years or plus older, uh, it made me really think about seeing in multiple ways. And so I wanted to capture that. And so sometimes real life experiences of your own eyes, how your eyes develop, how you're not able to see things when you don't know stuff, whereas different types of invisibility or maybe not being able in certain ways to perceive, um, that inspires me a lot. So that's how I got to that kind of like research of the Cyclops, and that was like a long. Like, it's not so easy to make work about the Cyclops because people think you've gone on the deep end hunting for cyclopses. That was like, I felt that very deeply, that people were looking at me and thinking, well, good luck with that. But it really, yeah, it took me a long time to feel like I could really write the narrative about that. I'm thinking now about trees, as in real life trees, but trees also as the metaphor of the tree folder that we're losing. I think a younger generation is already losing the understanding of what a file tree is because everything is just going on clouds. Echoes. No one goes through the streets or through the forest and starts shouting at the echoes. We have no experience of echoes. Um, but there's a lot of echoes in, in the digital sphere. So how these concepts of the real world kind of get like weirdly bastardized in our digital experiences, and how can you port that to a deeper understanding of perception? Go back to the trees and the echo spaces and shout at them and see if people are scared of you in the forest when you start screaming at the walls. Like yeah, that's what I'm thinking about a little bit, just to give you like an idea of what I'm also thinking through.
Oh, I love the idea of file trees versus clouds. And that's very interesting. That's super interesting. Bree, do you see anything popping up here that you want to elevate, or should I jump in? There's a
Um,
few more.
I had a quick question, and then there's another question from Tessa that's being bumped a lot. My question was, there's always been this tension between glitch and preservation. Often, glitch isn't meant to be captured or contained, or by design, it's not possible to preserve it at all. I was just curious how this tension is related to your work and practice, and if you could talk a little bit about that.
Um, I think to me, glitch as a practice somehow is like what you can just get away with, right? Like it's like this like limit of, can I work with it or will it just not be workable? And and that workability can exist within different elements of the process. So sometimes it is actually capturable, and that's fine because you still get away with it in another type of way. Like it's still a very interesting thing to look at, or it's still doing its job of meaningful uh, meaningful artifact. So I don't think that a glitch cannot be archived. I think glitches can be archived in many types of ways. Um, But if you call something glitch, it's like maybe to me the most interesting part of that is that where is that limit? Like what limit are you actually pushing? Because that's to me still where the glitch is kind of at, somewhat. Maybe I'm just sounding like an old jaded person here. I hope not.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah. And then, Tessa, did you want to unmute again and ask your question?
Oh, it says read for me, thanks, actually. I could do
Oh,
it.
yeah, no.
How do you relate to the use of glitch as a political metaphor, like in Glitch Feminism by Legacy Russell?
I think Legacy Russell's book was so important for glitch theory to pull it to a bigger audience, and also to be deployed within a new space somewhat. Um, I do think that there was already a lot of people also talking about glitches and identity politics. Um, but as around 2012s, the glitch became in its first, space of popular culture. I think that's when, in 2013, I think Legacy first wrote like a part of that book actually. So she was maybe like 1 year later, but I think those things came very much hand in hand with how Glitch developed actually into, that first wave of um, a larger discourse. Yeah.
For those who haven't read that book, can you give a 2 second synopsis?
2 seconds. So Legacy
10 seconds, 10,
is
10, yeah.
Legacy is using glitch feminism, the glitch as a way to kind of open up the spectrum of what is feminism, being queer, what is the norm of a body. So it was really about identity politics and how can we open up that bandwidth by breaking, playing, jolting it. And I hope I do it justice, right? Because actually I it's been a while and the book is in the other room.
Very cool. Okay. Let's see. Sammy has a question she'd like me to read for. Let me just actually like bundle it down a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about impossible images and latent space and latent image space? Do you see it in oh maybe I'm not gonna be able to bring this down. Do you see an impossible image as an object or image to be achieved, or as a symbolic ambition in order to keep stretching resolution beyond the limits and to break the resolution formats put on us to see but what is behind?
Um, Thank you, Sammy. I just found the question because it's like hard for me to actually understand something. I have to read it. I
Yes.
watched your YouTube video, Impossible Images and Latent Image Space. Do you see an impossible image as an object or image to be achieved or as a symbolic ambition in order to keep. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And what do you think is behind beyond those resolutions and is okay? So the question is, if I understand it correctly, um, or image to be achieved, object. For me, okay, so maybe I'm butchering your question because now we're going into dimensions, quantum physics, and shapes in the tesseract. Um, For me, the research on impossible images was to understand where impossibility exists. And what I mean to make it very quick and short, and I hope I'm answering your question actually. We're working in, even if this is like a trite thing to say, our black boxes are getting more and more opaque. And that means that basically every way we use them, uh, is more and more compromised. But those compromises are becoming less and less visible. So I was looking to understand where compromise and thus impossibility slips in to image processing. And so what I was doing with impossible images, and so this research asking scientists, quantum physics, etc., I was asking them for their images that they cannot create. And then I was organizing them into types of impossibility. And so what that did for me was kind of like a poke at trying to map the realms of resolution in general, and then see what governs resolution. In the broadest sense, it can also be about knowledge, it can be about belief systems, it can be financial or really technical. But what I wanted to do with that is um, now today when and I will pull it to my recent like more focused thinking, we see a lot of new images come up all the time, like poor images or metabolic images or invisible images. You know, there's artists and theorists alike all coining images all the time. And my question really is like, how do all those images live together? What do they like? How do they relate to each other? And I think we're always defining an image type by compromise, by resolution. And so maybe to take a step back and to understand all that like now very important image theory that is happening, it's really hard to make sense of because we don't have like a baseline to think through it. And so for me to understand where resolutions are constructed is also a way to then make space to organize all these new image types that we see keep happening. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to um, by means of first compromise, latent image space, etc., to find kind of a framework of what resolution is, and then to, via that line, understand where all these new image types actually connect to each other and to resolution. That was a long-winded answer. Now I made you stay over time. I'm
Oh
aware
my
of
goodness.
time.
So Rosa, thank you so much. I think this was a really, really interesting provocative session. There were obviously some questions in the chat that didn't get answered. So I will first just, ask, how can this community support you, keep in touch with you, all that, and then I will hand it off to Bree to wrap it up and then give the final word. So Rosa, how can people sort of follow, support your work or you?
Oh, that is up to you. I think what's very important for our community is that we are very critical and aware of what is happening to the image right now, how it's manipulating us beyond just the simple step manipulation, but really how these images are operating into our future already. An image that we get today is putting an operation towards the future, and the people that put those, and I mean, I'm not going to name them again, but the people that put those types of fascism into our feeds, they do that for the purpose of operating the future already. They're very aware that it's possible like this. They're creating ways of thinking, ways of seeing for us.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Rosa, thank you. Thank you again. This was super, super interesting. Bree, do we have something lined up for next week? We will.
Yes, we'll have something lined up for next week, and I just wanted to share that we've just announced 7 on 7 Rhizome's conference for artists collaborating with technologists, and I believe the person who scored this beautiful performance that we just saw will be a part of that. So just dropping the link to that in the chat.
Fantastic. All right. Excellent. Well, Rosa, Bree, thanks again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who came here on a Friday morning, afternoon, or evening to join us. Hope you can continue to stay part of this community. Again, thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.